In this video, we're going to go over Tuesday's assignments. So one thing I want to emphasize here is use your weekly organizer. You should, whether it's Monday or not, whatever day you start the work on, you should start with Monday's work. So notice how the red X is there to mark off that we've already done that. Once you've done Mondays, then you can move on to Tuesdays. I've put them in an order for learning reasons, so please follow that order. Let's move and groove to the next one. So part of Tuesdays is the reading. So I've blown up the reading so we can go over it here together. So positive and negative numbers. Positive numbers are used to describe quantities greater than zero, and negative numbers are used to describe quantities less than zero. Often, positive and negative numbers are used together to show quantities that have opposite directions or values. All positive numbers just look like regular numbers. So they have the plus in front of it, or they don't, but they mean the same thing. All negative numbers have a negative sign in front of them, like this, -4. So in our reminder, all positive and negative whole numbers, right, numbers that you would count on your fingers, 1, 2, 3, that doesn't include fractions or decimals, all positive ones, all negative ones, and your zero, we call those integers. So when you're working on your homework assignment and it says write the integer, that's what I'm talking about. The reading says, as we know, all integers can be placed on a number line. If you put all integers on a number line, 0 would be at the exact middle because 0 is neither positive nor negative. Whenever you draw your number line, you don't have to put 0 in the middle. They just want us to recognize that positives and negatives are opposite, and that's why that 0 is in the middle. And so if we're talking about distance, the distance from 0 to 1 is the same as the distance from 0 to -1. You know, this is just like if the teacher is 0 and you have two students waiting to talk to the teacher, and that one student is +1 and that one student is a -1, and they're standing, you know, equidistant apart, we could see that that distance is the same, but we need to recognize that positive and negative numbers are opposites. Let's move on to the reading again. Positive and negative numbers have many uses in our world, such as, so this page and the next page, all of the negative number examples are on the left, and the positive are on the right. So some of these things you might actually attribute the feelings of negative and positive with the number representations themselves. So let's not neglect that and use that to our use. So on the left, let's at negative, we have debt, money that you owe. I associate a negative feeling with that. I don't want to owe people. And so when you are representing what you owe as an integer, it's going to have a negative symbol in front of it. Whereas the opposite, positive, money that you have in savings. So that is which you've been saving up, which you've been putting away. I like the little money bag. I'm thinking, I keep on doing this because I'm thinking of a bank account, because that's how I keep track of mine. But maybe you have like a penny jar still, and you're keeping track of money that way. That would be your savings, and that's represented positively. On the left side for negative, debit from a bank account. So pulling money out of a bank account, that integer is represented with a negative sign, so -8. Whereas putting money into a bank account called credit, also known as a deposit, so credit and deposit, you think of those two, to your bank account. So money you're putting in, that's why it's +8. You've got that negative electric charge, think of our science. We have electrons, they have a negative charge. Think of our technology. My computer uses a magnetic-based memory system to hold data. So it uses a positive and a negative charge to hold information. Below zero temperatures. So notice that little guy's freezing there. It's important to note that positive 32 degrees Fahrenheit is where water freezes. So that's that distinction we have to make, is that you still have like cold freezing temperatures when it's snowing outside, but it could still be above zero. So between 0 and 32, I've been that cold and seen the snow when it's in this early 40s degree temperature as well. But definitely below zero, oh yeah, that is freezing. And those above zero temperatures, right, you have those values where you're cold, but then it just keeps on getting hotter. So that's when we have our summers. Ooh, but also too, good times go to the river. Let's check out this below sea level and above sea level. So this is another means of measurement. So think of elevation. When you hear it's gonna snow, if you've ever heard, oh, it's gonna snow down to blah 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 feet, right? It's gonna snow down to 4,000 feet, right? That measurement is according to um, what we call above sea level and below sea level. Below sea level is, that's kind of like, think about, you already know, it'd be below the sea. But there are places that are below sea level that aren't filled with water or below the sea. I mean, think about, so Death Valley, for example. It's in Southern California, near the border, and it's hot. It's a desert. And so it's a hot desert and it is below sea level. It's not filled with water. It's because it's not near water. If we had some godlike powers and we were able to scoop up Death Valley and put it right next to, the beach, the ocean, yeah, that would fill up. It would no longer be a Death Valley. It'd be a lake. But that's not the case. This Death Valley is not next to the ocean. And so you have this, and like my little pictures in my hands. So you have this Death Valley, or sorry, you have this sea level, and you have this Death Valley, kind of like our valley here, but it's even, steeper and further down into the earth, and it's not near water. So it's okay for things to be below sea level and not actually be in the sea. But we're talking about, above sea level, that's up here in the mountains. These are things that are important to think about, when we go hiking, if you're going hunting, you might be climbing up elevation, and that's going up even higher for going above sea level. On this page, it says, on a horizontal number line, numbers to the left of zero are negative and numbers to the right of zero are positive. Numbers get larger as they move to the right and smaller as they move to the left. We draw arrows on the end of each number line to show that the numbers keep going all the way to infinity and negative infinity. So remember that infinity is something that is endless, unlimited, or without bounds. Infinity is not a number, it's a concept. And if your line doesn't have arrows on the end, then you're really actually just drawing a line segment. Lines go on forever. So that's a little thing to know that's going to help you in geometry. So remember that piece too. Oh, and that other piece, right? The more you go to the left, the smaller it gets. If you see that 5 in that -5 and that -4, and you're not thinking of the negative sign, it could be easily confusing. If you're like, no, 5 is bigger than 4. Well, we're not talking about positive numbers. We're talking about negative numbers. So don't forget to keep that piece in mind if you're getting confused about what's bigger and what's smaller. Imagine that number line in your head and think, is the number I'm thinking of to the left, right? Let's see, -50 and -30. I want to know if -50 is smaller than -30. Would -50 be to the left or to the right of -30? It would be to the left of -30, so therefore -50 is smaller. Positive, plus, and negative, minus signs are called opposites. So +5 and -5 are also called opposites. They're both the same number of spaces or the same distance from 0 on the number line, but on opposite sides. So back to that opposite again. On a vertical number line, such as a thermometer we have here, so on the left is Fahrenheit, that's what we use here in the US. I think most of the world uses Celsius. I need to look into that. But you still have the same thing, just take your number line and, well, I guess I really should say it this way. So you have your 0, and then above 0 are your positive numbers, and below 0 are your negative numbers.